am Goliath. I am a 9 feet tall monster, and no one on this earth can defeat me. Ha 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 ha! I am David. I am a 15-year-old boy. I am a shepherd. But I will defeat Goliath. Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am talking about the famous biblical story of David and Goliath. In the valley of Elah, there lived a mighty monster, Goliath. He was 9 feet tall, and nobody on this earth could defeat him. And the king of the valley, King Saul, was challenged by Goliath that you send me one person who can defeat me, else I'll destroy this valley. King announced the reward, and listening to the reward, young shepherd boy David, 15 years old, he came ahead and he said, "The king, I will defeat Goliath." King was shocked. King said, "You don't have any training, any formal training in army. You don't know how to use weapons. How are you going to defeat Goliath?" But then David said, "I have my strategies, king. And don't you worry, I will defeat Goliath." The king was very reluctant. He said, "All right, you go ahead. You go and just fight Goliath, but please take this armor with you and take this helmet with you. This will help you to protect you in the battlefield." Again, David refused. "No, king, I don't need any armor. I have my sling, I have my stones, and with the sling and stones, I will defeat you." So king waved him goodbye, and there he was at the battlefield. So David, young David, 15 years old, looked at the mighty Goliath. And Goliath looked deep into the eyes of David and mocked at him in disgust. "How is this boy going to defeat me?" Suddenly, David took his sling and his stone, he aimed at Goliath's forehead, and he hit the Goliath at the center of the forehead with the stone, and soon Goliath fell face on the ground. David cuts off his head. The story is over. David won, Goliath lost. But one question that lingers out here is, what is it that made weaponless David win over that mighty monster? The answer is very simple. It is none other than strategy. Strategy is a lever that magnifies the force, and if applied in the right direction, you can win in any arena of life. David had his strategies in place. Today I am going to share with you 3 secrets of having a good strategy that can make you win in any area of life. So I have with me secret number 1. Secret number 1 is to define your goals. Yes, friends, it's very, very important to have your goals clear in your mind. Because if you don't know where are you going, you will never get there, right? So you've got to have your goals in place. And you have got to have smart goals. Goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Look at David. He knew very well from the start that I'm going to kill Goliath with just the sling and stones. So it's important to have goals in the life. That's the bedrock of a good strategy. Secret number 2. Identify your obstacles and have a plan, have an action plan that how are you going to deal with this. Look at Goliath, or David's case. He knew that the only obstacle that he's going to face during the war is Goliath's height. He was a very tall monster and he had his action plans in place to deal with it. In the same way, when you start a project, it is important to identify the risks that are involved in the project and to have a mitigation plan to deal with those risks. So identify what are your obstacles. Secondly, how are you going to deal with it? Secret number 3. Know your strengths and know your weaknesses. You got to know that what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. Look at David. He knew his strength was that he was a young boy, he was agile, he was swift, he was very speedy. So that kind of helped him in dealing with a mighty monster who was not very agile. But with this, just look at the story. He refused to take armor and helmet from the king. You know why? Because that would have slowed him down. And that would have impacted his performance. His strength was his slingshots and his sword. He was perfect with it. So rather than focusing on his weakness that he was not very trained, he was not good at army, he focused on his perfect slingshots. And on the other hand, what was Goliath's weakness? It was that he was covered with armor from like neck to toe, but his head was uncovered. And David grabbed that weakness of his. That's why with a slingshot, he aimed at his forehead. So he knew what his strengths were, what his weaknesses were. In the same way, you need to do your SWOT analysis when you are starting a project. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? That's how you can move ahead and create a winning strategy. So I reiterate all the points that I've said right now. For having a good strategy, you need to have SMART goals. Second, you need to identify the obstacles and have a plan to mitigate them. And lastly, identify your strengths and weaknesses. And I'm sure that you can kill any Goliath in your life. Over to you, Toastmasters.